G'day everyone. I'm just throwing this as an intro to all of these videos I'm about to upload. These are all spearfishing info videos from Patreon. The Patreon people that I spoke with said they wouldn't mind if these eventually went on YouTube. There's about 9 hours of spearfishing info stuff. Nothing fancy, just me talking to a GoPro on various topics, but it will probably help quite a few new divers because there's like 9 hours of just absolute... I cover everything I've sort of ever learned in the scene. With regards to me spearfishing, probably not a reality at the moment. I was just diagnosed with a disorder called ME a few years back. Stupidly tried to hide it. Shouldn't have actually, because if I come out with these things I can help other people that are struggling through them. But yeah, I haven't even been able to make this video for the last 4 days because I've been and now yeah, I've got enough energy today. But yeah, you can watch the Future of Aquatic Rehab spearfishing video if you want to know more on that. For anyone that wants to help me through this, I will put my PayPal in here. Feel free if you think you're getting value out of this, because sort of everything helps with this. But otherwise, no pressure. Just go out and send us pictures of the fish that you're smashing. And yeah, hope you guys get some info. Hey crew, so this week's sort of informational spearfishing video is a little bit later than I'd like, but I've just been running around like crazy doing hunting, and then have to shoot down the line for a sick family member and all sorts, so just bear with us. But remember, more questions in the comments the better, because I can screenshot them and then talk about them. So today's one was what I was going to go back to, which is pros and the cons of using roller guns. Now I've got a couple of roller guns here, and this is something that I sort of wanted to think about quite a lot before I answered it. Well, not think about, but actually just use a roller gun for a solid period of time, so that I can say, you know, because if I just get it out of the bag and it starts shooting really nice and I'm killing lots of fish with it, then I go out and say that's awesome, and then you know, a year down the track might start running into some problems, then I can't really change my mind. So essentially, I'll start off with a con first. When you get a roller gun, a con would be the fact that they shoot quite quickly, so learning the accuracy, like there's a weird little window that I've seen with a few people. Maybe not everyone has this, but I had it, my mate Wayne had it, and a couple of other people I've talked to had it, where the gun doesn't shoot accurately because you don't really know where it's shooting because of how fast they are in the start. So for me, I just had no idea. There was a good period where I just thought it was shooting, but I just actually had no idea where it was going, but I was missing fish. My mate ended up shooting over the top of 3 really big snapper, and then yeah, once you sort of correct that, then you're normally good to go. But it's just this weird little learning curve. A pro would be the lack of recoil. So you know, and that's something you actually start taking for granted when you go back to a standard gun setup. The fact that when they shoot, they're just like, the gun just sits in your hand like nothing, and that's actually it can be really good, especially on a big gun like this. Like this is a big thing. I think it's shooting like a, what's that, 8 or 9 mil shaft, and yeah, it's to have a gun like that that's only 1 meter long that can fire a massive shaft without any recoil is pretty cool, and it makes for yeah, really nice smooth shooting. And even to the point where I've gone back to my other guns and I've pulled them right up against my face just to shoot close fish, and then I've had them like come back and almost hit me in the head because I'm used to shooting a roller gun. But a con is definitely mechanical, adding a mechanical component, and this is where I see the big issues. Now it's fine if you've got, you know, a boat there or something and you can do some adjustments and things like that, but if you're going out on a shore dive, it's something that I really like to think about. Now obviously there's going to be different brands and things like that, and some of them are going to be more simplified and more bulletproof, but I've had issues with the roller guns out, and they have been issues like
breakages and just component failures and just stuff like that, because you're adding more complexity to the rig. And whether that's worth it, I don't know. But I have had, like, for example, I had one breakage and I had to get out, and then a marlin came in on my dive buddy. So that's a type of failure that has potentially lost a really good fish. So adding the mechanical component to it is, you know, how do you feel on the water with that? Do you feel like, you know, you're happy to go out and do shore dives and stuff like that and have that as your gun in the water? Like, quite often when I'm doing shore dives, I find that I'm on the float boat, I'm dragging around a non-roller gun as well, just because I've got this sort of paranoia about failure, especially if you're going out quite far, or you know, you're quite far away from shore and you've been traveling for quite a way to get to that area, and that's your one window to dive with the weather or whatever. Another con would be the fact that newer divers seem to be thinking that they can replace experience with more power. So like the amount of guys that are like, okay, I'm missing this fish, I'm not shooting this fish, I'm losing kingfish or something like that, I'm not getting full penetration. You know, if you're using like a double 14 band 120 or something, the reality is if you're not getting penetration, you're just not close enough to the fish, and it's just a simple fact. And the faster that you can fail, the faster you're going to get better at spearfishing. Essentially, there's like this massive amount of failures that you have to go through with hunting, especially like even land hunting, everything. And the faster you can fail, the faster you're going to get better. So you have to go out and, you know, like in the How to Spearfish series, there's a lot of stuff that I point out, but once guys go and they actually see, oh, that's happened, then they can register it a bit quicker. They have to have that failure for their brain to learn it. For example, where snapper are and how easily they spook, or just like you have to like learn things, and you have to learn how close a fish is. So what a lot of guys do is they're like, oh shit, I'm losing fish or this and that. I've been out only diving for 1 or 2 summers or whatever, and you know, I'm losing all these kingies. I'm going to go out and get this like roller gun that's going to solve all my problems. But in fact it's not, because it's probably going to do the opposite, because instead of getting closer, you're just taking longer shots of fish. And yeah, the reality is rather than looking at the gear, just look at learning the wildlife and getting closer to the wildlife. So with roller guns or more powered guns, I definitely see that as a con to not so much the gun, but just in general, because it's a trend that I think that I've sort of been snapping onto. Yeah, so in terms of that, a pro would be less length. So for this gun here, this was 120 that I got cut down to 90. So it's more of a concealed sort of shorter gun that I can, you know, you don't have that same length, so you don't have to, you can sort of conceal it in, and then you've got the same amount of power, so you can push it out, and yeah, it's just more hideable, little punchy little unit, if hideable is the word. But yeah, that can help if you don't have that big, if you're looking for snapper and stuff and you don't have that big extra bit of gun pointing out over a ledge, or just getting down to the handle. There is actually a con with that though, with that pro. The con being that a shorter gun isn't always as stable in the water, and the more degree that it moves up, down, left and right, the more of the degrees in the water that turns out towards the fish, the bigger accuracy penalty that there is. So if you've got a nice long gun and it's staying there stable, yeah, you can normally hold them a bit stable, but a shorter gun tends to just sort of move around a little bit more. It can be harder to get accuracy at long range. So yeah, that's where it can be quite good to have not a long gun, but just a gun just suitable to that species, rather than going short. And that may have been the reason why I had the accuracy problems at the start. Another con would be guys just overpowering the shit out of them. For New Zealand, I mean, I from what this gun came like, I depowered it quite a few times, especially when I get new rubbers and stuff like that, and this is just a really long one for an even bigger setup, and I found it to be really great with a little 6.5mm. You don't need to do like inverted triggers and stuff like that, because you don't need to really get that extra stretch, because why push them all the way to the limits? Because this is a con with roller guns, is that if you push them all the way to their limits, then you're going to exaggerate any small issues. So you're going to exaggerate, you know, you might hit a kingy and then you've got like a slight bend in the shaft or something from the way that it was fighting, depending on the angle you shot it at. And then if you've got a really, you know, high speed setup that's like pushed all the way to the limits, then it's going to exaggerate any shaft issues, and the shafts will be flying out sideways and stuff like that. So if you have a slower setup, I'm not talking super slow, but just, you know, toned down a wee bit, then you can just and you can still punch through fish sweet as. I find that a lot better. I'm not saying slow, I'm still saying a nice fast setup, but I'm, you know, not right up to the maximum, you know. And another con with that is and the reason why I power them down is because obviously a lot of reef fish and snapper and that are in front of rocks, and you want your shafts to stay as sharp as possible, because you don't want to lose out on the sharpness, because with a really sharp shaft, you can picture where it's digging in and piercing into the fish, very similar to what we use on the arrows, is you know, if you lose that that edge on the sharpness on the front of the shaft, then you've basically, you know, you're shooting yourself in the foot right there. So for me, having a slightly powered down gun, when I'm shooting through snapper and going dink off the rocks, it's not like blowing right the way through them and just smashing the tip off, because when I first got it, it was just so powered up that that's what I found. Now I will admit that, like, if you have a fish way out at range, then that can be really good, because you can go and smash through it. But in reality, a lot of those fish at range is sort of, for me personally, I'm thinking, oh well, it's too far. I'm not. I should have got closer to earn it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's kind of the. Well, it's just not a right. It's not the right setup. And not, I should have got closer to earn it, you know, because sometimes you can't always, but it's just not the right setup, and that's how hunting goes. I came over this ledge and the fish happened to be out there a bit further, you know, so yeah, that's just basically the gist of what I think with that. All in all, do I think that they are going to be, they may be the future? Do I think that they're going to be the new thing? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with them or not. I think they do have their place for boat diving, but I still do enjoy using the standard guns as well. But yeah, I guess it just depends on personal preference, and I don't think anyone is clearly better than the other in all aspects. I think that there's always pros and cons. When it comes to shooting a roller gun, they're definitely nicer, but when it comes to mechanical bits and pieces, I think they're that's where they fail. So you could lose fish on both sides of the spectrum, but yeah, and I know a few of the brands and that are obviously tidying them up, and they're going to be really you know, quite becoming more and more tough, you know, more and more reliable. But another con too is definitely the price point. You know, you want to do at least 3 years sort of in the water, 2 or 3 years before you go out and spend like crazy money on guns and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's just the basic gist of it. So yeah, these are my two rollers here, and this one here is a Val 100. This is only a 1 meter long gun, which is for like your big dogtooth and marlin and stuff like that. And that, when it's set up and running right, it's a bloody awesome gun for doing that kind of stuff. But you can see how technical it is. But you know, if I was going to be in front of a fish and have it loaded up right, this is the gun that I'd want to have. But this is not the gun that I'd want to reload quickly. You know, so or really have on the reef and have a fish swimming out in front of the reef. So it's all just a matter of sort of chopping, changing, and choosing what you'd like and weighing up all your options. So yeah, I hope that gives some clarity around it for people that are looking at buying roller guns. The future of what I'm going to use, I'm just not really too sure at the moment. Yeah, basically, you also have to remember, I think that the rollers add a bit of weight, so if you want a gun that's going to float, normally you have to go to the old carbon and like a low profile reel too. So or the wood's pretty good at floating. But yeah, if you guys have any other further questions, just jump in there on the comments and let us know what you want to see on the next informational video.